Experts skeptical of Gulf of Mexico oil findings. Despite federal claims that most of the oil in the Gulf of Mexico is somehow gone, many independent scientists say that they fear the amount of crude left from the massive BP spill will wreak environmental destruction or devastation in the long term. Among the unanswered questions is how much damage the remaining oil will have on marine life and coastlines, said a marine biologist with Greenpeace in Washington. And the answer may not be known for a year or longer. And it's more than losing a year of baby fish. We will eventually lose habitat. We will lose entire islands. Will have serious impact on our population of whales in the Gulf, the sea turtles, and it goes on and on. This is something we will be facing for 10, 20 years to come, or perhaps for generations. He was reacting to a federal report released earlier in the day, indicating that nearly 3/4 of the spilled oil, more than 152 million gallons, has been collected at the well by a temporary containment cap, been cleaned up or chemically dispersed, or evaporated and dissolved. But that would leave at least 53 million gallons or more still in the Gulf, an amount nearly 5 times the size of the 11 million gallon Exxon Valdez spill, which caused massive environmental damage in Alaska in 1989, and they can still find oil there. The government report was based on daily operational reports, estimates or guesses by scientists, and analysis by federal experts. The government has acknowledged it made certain assumptions about how oil dissolves in water naturally over time. This is a shaky report, a very shaky report. The more I read it, the less satisfied I am with the thoroughness of its presentation, said Florida State University oceanography professor Ian McDonald. There are sweeping assumptions here. The NOAA chief acknowledged the numbers could be off by as much as 10%. One of the scientists who peer-reviewed the work and is mentioned in the report, Ed Overton of Louisiana State University, said he wasn't comfortable with NOAA's putting precise percentages of how much oil is left in the Gulf. What would be more accurate would be a much broader range of, say, 40 million to 60 million gallons, he said. The White House claimed only 26% of the oil remained in the Gulf, but that was based on a 206 million gallon figure for the spill that included oil that spewed from the pipe but was captured by BP and never got into the Gulf. Using the 172 million gallons that got into the Gulf, 31% of the oil remains. But in actuality, or reality, the numbers could be much higher. So, what happened to the oil? Thank nature more than the federal government, burning, skimming, and chemically dispersing the spill, theoretically got rid of 35 million gallons of oil, while natural processes of dispersion, evaporation, and dissolving got rid of 84 million gallons, according to the report. Mother Nature is assisting here considerably, but she cautioned that the oil that's left can harm wildlife for years or even decades to come, saying diluted and out of sight doesn't necessarily mean benign. Still, outside scientists said this was just a too simple explanation for a complex oil that has confounded federal scientists at every turn. This is just way too neat, said Larry McKinney, director of the Texas A&M University Research Center on the Gulf of Mexico. How can you even do this at this point? There's a lot of oil still floating out there. McKinney said he most worried that this overly optimistic assessment would cost the government, and yes, the U.S. taxpayers, and save BP billions and billions of dollars in the damage assessment process. In other words, that's what this is about, saving BP a lot of money, because that's what it's been about from the very beginning, and that's how this all started. It was about money, saving BP a lot of money, and BP is lying. They are telling us more lies. Oil is still seeping up from the seafloor or the seabed all around the BOP. In other words, it's not over. Oil is still leaking, just not like it was before. They have learned how to hide it real good. And now that it's leaking from the seafloor, they won't be able to get any accurate measurements. Yes, BP is trying to wash their hands of this whole affair, this whole incident. BP attorneys are placing this in plastic and putting this in frames. The core of the idea here, that oil and water essentially has about half-life of a week, makes sense, but what happened from there doesn't. There's some science here, but mostly it's spin. And it breaks my heart to see them do it, said one scientist. He also pointed out that NOAA spent weeks sticking with its claim the BP well was spewing only 210,000 gallons a day. Now, after several revisions, the federal government said it really was 2.2 million gallons a day. So, he has a hard time believing NOAA this time. It's so bad. Thousands and thousands of birds and other animals are known to have been damaged or killed by the spill. Efforts are still underway in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida to clean up more than 600 miles of oiled shoreline. As of last weekend, the government and BP had collected 35,818 tons of oily debris from shorelines, but much more work remains to be done. So again, this is a long-term, rolling disaster. It will be going on for many years. And it is robbing the Gulf of Mexico ecosystem of oxygen in the water. The oil-eating microbes are increasing, and they reduce or take the oxygen out of the water, killing all sea life over time. There's no reason to exaggerate the impact, because it's so bad that we don't have to exaggerate. The scientist said, I stepped into an area that was the size of a football field and had 50,000 dead crabs. Again, 50,000 dead crabs just in the size of a football field. This is an area that can no longer sustain life. You don't want to see 50,000 of anything dead. Adding to the controversy are questions over the environmental impact of the nearly 2 million gallons of chemical dispersants used by BP to help break the oil into droplets, so huge slicks wouldn't tarnish shorelines and coat marine animals. In other words, this is still a huge, ongoing disaster. Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 19. And will ye pollute me among my people for handfuls of barley, for pieces of bread or money, to slay the souls that should not die, and to save the souls alive that should not live, by your lying to my people that hear your lies? 20. Wherefore, thus saith the Lord God Almighty, Behold, I am against your pillows, wherewith you there hunt the souls to make them fly. And I will tear them from your arms, I will let the souls go, even the souls that you hunt, to make them fly. And all these are more signs of the end times, transition days, which is a process happening daily all around the world.